Thanks for joining us here at Keystone Lawn and Tree Care. We have Vitali from Greenline Services back again to tell us stories about theft. On our last episode, we talked about a couple of different theft things that happen. You have employee theft, and then you have general public theft. And we're going to give a couple stories.
Yeah.
Vitali's got three stories he's going to share with us today about theft. And was it general public theft, was it employee theft, or was it in between?
Yeah.
So, Vitali, tell us
Sure.
one story maybe that happened in the last couple of years that really sticks out that you could share with the audience and let them know maybe not to make this kind of mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the first one that I dealt with was the general public theft, where you don't know the person, they're a stranger, just opportunity theft, grab and dash, or they break into your vehicle. So one of my biggest clients is a local truck stop here, and so they get a lot of foot traffic and a lot of vehicle traffic there. And I had my truck was, I thought, locked up, and I'm pretty sure it was locked up, and I keep my Craftsman tool set behind my back seat. Uh, I was out there working on my equipment. I had to change out a blade. I got my toolkit out, changed out the blade, put it back in, locked up my door, and went back to work. Come back later on, towards the end of the day, and my door is slightly ajar. It's not closed all the way, and it's locked. It's something's messed up. Somebody broke in. And so I open it up and start looking around and look in my back seat. Behind my back seat, there's no toolbox. My mechanic set, 154 piece, gone.
Yeah.
It was just they break in and then they just walked away. So probably took them less than a minute, and they walked away with my tool set. And so that was just, I don't know who the person was. Also, at the same time, they got in the back of my truck and stole a gas can full of gas.
Yeah. I've had that happen. That happens almost twice a season, I'd say. They
at
just
least.
happen to walk by and just take the gas can, especially if you're in a big public area like a parking lot or at McDonald's or something like that.
Yeah. So even if you do lock up your vehicles, it can still happen to you.
Yeah.
So just be aware.
Yeah, so that's a good example of maybe how to lock up your vehicle or just be aware of it, your surroundings. And it stinks that I don't know what you can do to prevent it. Maybe park in a well-lit area or, whatever underneath the camera.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you do have your things locked up, they still go missing.
It still happens. Yeah, they'll break into a truck. So I've since then I've upgraded. I got a newer truck. It's got alarms on it, sensors. If I lock it and I walk away, they start messing with the handle, it's gonna go off.
Yeah, so that's a good tip. Maybe get an alarm system or something.
Always get an alarm system for your truck. It's not $199 installed.
Yeah.
It's a good investment.
And not that you're worried about somebody stealing your truck, especially if you got a big sign on the side of it,
Yeah.
but your tools and your things inside, and having that little flashing light might deter somebody.
And I
like
purposely put stuff inside the truck so it wouldn't get stolen.
Yeah.
But it still happened to me.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good example of general public theft. Now, give us an example of employee theft. Now, that one really hits home. That one sucks,
Yeah.
especially when you're first getting started and somebody steals from you. It's so personal. But again, my advice is don't take it so personally, because from the jerk's point of view, the thief, he doesn't care about you. He treats you like a Walmart. You're some big $1 billion company. Who cares? He's not going to miss a $500 weed eater or blower, but you do. So my advice is don't take it personally. But Vitali, tell me about a story when it was personal and it just sucked, man.
Yeah, so I had an employee last year who was working with me in the springtime, and a few weeks in, I noticed, a handheld blower's missing. I thought maybe we left it at a property. We go back to the property. I go back, and I speak with the tenant, and they haven't seen it, and that's the only place that we were at during that time period. That goes missing. The next week, a new trimmer goes missing. And I thought maybe it fell off the truck or again, I misplaced it.
Man.
It's strange.
Yeah.
The next week after that, chainsaw goes missing.
That's too much.
Too much coincidences.
Too much coincidence.
And I'm like, well, let's see, what's the common denominator here? Well, it was my helper. He was around all those pieces of equipment. And how I found out about it was his friend was driving him, was picking him up from work and was driving him back home. But his friend called me and he said, this is something strange going on, but we've been circling back to some of the properties that you guys work at. And I don't know what's going on, but he's coming back in and putting tools in the back of my vehicle. I noticed a trimmer, I noticed a blower, I noticed a chainsaw. I think these are yours. And for some reason, he has them. And so I come to find out that he said that he was pawning them.
Oh man.
Yeah, pawn shops. If your stuff goes missing, check your pawn shop.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. And maybe a good piece of advice is be make note of all your serial numbers and stuff.
Absolutely.
So you when you file that police report, the police have to work by law. They have to work with all these pawn
Yeah.
shops in town, and they find those serial
The
numbers.
pawn shops will ask you if you have a serial number, and luckily I do.
Yeah.
I take photos of all my equipment and make sure I've got a serial number, I've got a barcode, I've got some sort of identification. If I do have to call the pawn shop, they can look it up and confirm it. That was me.
Yeah.
So this guy, his friend, basically gave him up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he-
I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, and so I had to do a police report. I called the pawn shop. Luckily, got my stuff back, but that guy, he's now, facing a little bit of jail time.
Yeah, and it sucks. I mean, you compromise your integrity and maybe even jail time if the parts get so expensive.
Yeah.
You get up over the $500 mark, you're no longer just like a misdemeanor. This
Yeah.
is like a felony.
Yeah, $1,000 range. I
Yeah.
think that's called grand theft.
Yeah.
And so you're facing a potential felony depending on where you're at.
Yeah, and I don't understand why these guys do it. I mean, they're taking a $500 blower and they're pawning it for like $50, maybe $100 if they're lucky. I
Yeah.
just don't get it. And they're compromising their integrity, and they could go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they must be really desperate or have a drug problem.
Very commonly, they'll have some sort of issue where they need money, and instead of putting in more hours or asking for more work, they think it's easier to just steal from you and go pawn or sell off what you have worked so hard to buy for yourself or your business, so you can actually employ people
Yeah.
to help them out as well.
And
So
there's
it's-
nothing you can do really.
No,
I mean, you
it's-
can try to guard yourself. I like locking your stuff in the truck and maybe doing a background check on the guys, but it's just going to happen, and it just stinks. you
Yeah.
know? And so I think you should really build that into your budget, because big companies, say like Walmart, they have a whole departments dedicated to loss prevention, and they build
Exactly.
that into their yearly budget.
Yep.
So I hate to say it, but as you get a little bit older and you get more employees, one of your line items in your budget is going to be theft,
Yeah.
and it sucks.
A replacement. Yeah. The other story I had was when your own personal garage or shop gets broken into.
Oh man, that's a real violation there,
Yeah.
man.
That's the least one that you expect.
Yeah.
I came home from a weekend trip out of town and walked into my garage and noticed that half my stuff is missing. New backpack blower,
Oh.
chainsaw, air compressor. Half my stuff is gone.
Oh man.
And I'm like, well, I don't know who did it. I can't prove it. But somebody who knew what I did, somebody who knew what I had, because they only grabbed the most expensive stuff. So they knew what I had and they knew what was valuable. So it's somebody who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of an in between the general public theft and then maybe an employee.
Yes.
You don't really know. But
So,
maybe
now,
an employee, maybe it was just some.
Yeah.
Who knows?
well, now we have cameras.
Yeah,
you know,
I have cameras too.
So we can definitely, figure out who it was. And so I haven't, at that time I didn't, but now I do.
Yeah.
Just as a preventative. So anybody can steal from you. Unfortunately, it does happen. Be aware, especially if you work in parts of town that are just not the
Kinda
best.
sketchy, yeah.
Sketchy parts of town. That's where I'm extra careful and I lock everything up. The doors, everything's locked up. And so that's prevent, loss of tools, loss of equipment, loss of gas.
Yeah, and what did your wife think about some possible employee coming back? I mean, you were probably in
She-
hot water.
Yeah, she didn't feel, so safe.
Yeah, and it
'cause
sucks.
It's a violation of your personal
Absolutely.
home.
And my wife has gotten on me about that. And having these guys come to the house, we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And actually, we've started to implement a storage unit.
Yes.
I have a storage unit
Yep.
off-site, away from the shop, and I will store maybe one set of tools or one set of everything there, and that's where new employees will meet me.
Sure.
Yeah, I say, well, meet me at the storage unit. We're going to start our day or start our training or whatever, and it just builds a layer between me, like the employee, and
Yeah.
then my own personal shop. There's kind of this layer
It's like
in
a
there.
security
Kind of
barrier,
security,
yeah.
and plus there's a bunch of security cameras on the site.
Yeah. Storage units are secure.
Yeah, storage unit. So I have them meet me at the storage unit, and we get there together. We do our training. We get in the truck. We go out, and then we drop off the stuff at the end of the day at the storage unit. So that's where I like to start employees. But again, as you start to get to know them, maybe you do trust them.
Yep.
And then they will come around your personal shop, and
Sure.
then
Sure. Yeah, I have several guys that have been working with me for a couple of years, and so I do trust them.
yeah.
But new ones, we're pretty leery. They have to earn their trust.
Yeah. So having a built-in layer of security, maybe operating through a storage unit, is a good idea, because storage units are fairly affordable when it comes to rent. You know, you can rent a
Yeah.
large storage unit for about $300, at least in this part of the country, about $300 for a big one, where you could park your truck and trailer, or maybe even an outdoor one.
Sure.
And you know, you can't afford to buy, you know, a big offsite shop,
Yeah.
certainly for, you know, whatever, $500,000, but you can afford a payment of, you know, $300 a month
Sure.
or something like that.
Yeah. So as you grow your business, and if you do get employees, trust is a big factor. You know, build that in. You know, verify who you work with. But there's only so much you could do, honestly. But just be aware that you may experience theft at some point.
Yeah, yeah, and it sucks, you know, and we try to share these videos with you guys out there so that maybe you can learn a little bit something from us. So again, if you're getting anything out of these videos, we want you to hit the obligatory like button, comment and subscribe, share it with your friends. And you know, I think those are some good examples of what we're talking about today. And so we're going to kind of wrap things up. Again, we want you to be successful and not make the same mistakes we have. So with that, do you have any other parting comments?
You know, just do the best you can to, you know, make things work for you. So just be aware things can happen, but don't let it ruin your day. Have a backup plan.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching.